They were called Nasties, and they were nasty.
Some of the things that we've seen are so horrific.
These films not only affect young people, but I believe they affect adults as well.
An extravaganza of gory violence capable of depraving and corrupting those who watched it.
I have never seen a video nasty. I wouldn't. I actually don't need to see what I know is in that film.
And welcome back to another episode of Doing the Nasty podcast. This is season number 2, episode number 27. I'm one of your two hosts on the show. Joining me as always is my good buddy Mark Ball. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, Duncan, it's good to be back on Doing the Nasty. We're running a little late with this recording. March was kind of an insane fucking month, and April's not looking a whole lot better. So yeah, This one's running a little late. I don't know. Hopefully we get time. We can record the other episodes so the listeners get two of these in April. But yeah, we got one fairly standard thing to talk about tonight, and one that I am fairly certain in saying I probably never would have fucking watched if it wasn't for this show.
Yeah. I agree. I didn't even know of its existence. So, and I would say sometimes ignorance is bliss. So yeah, you're seeing that like April. Like, we might as well just like get like down dirty and personal as well with this. We're about to hit summer series prep as well, so which isn't going to be as intensive as previous years. But once again, the scheduling for this show, if we get one out a month, I'll be very, very, very happy. If it looks like 1 month you don't get one, and then the following month you get 2, I'm just going to say you get this show for free. So fuck off.
You got no right to complain.
Right, yeah, like Mark alluded to there in his intro, we have 2 wildly different movies to discuss on this episode for you. We will be partaking in a little bit of smut, which I know some people out there's an eyebrow just lifted, and maybe something else. You never know. We'll be doing the new adventures of Snow White, aka Grimm's Fairy Tales for adults, and then we'll be following that movie up with a lesser known, because obviously that's the heavy hitter of this episode, a lesser known slasher movie. I mean, you have to dig far down the pile of slashers to find Friday the 13th, which is another
Maybe
one.
You've heard of it.
It's another one of these movies where I'm like that. I mean, we'll discuss it. You ain't getting a full review of it because there's nothing that me and Mark can even remotely cover in this that hasn't been recovered in the thousands of hours of podcast out there already covering this fucking movie. So we'll maybe dig into a little bit more about its graphic nature, and is it all that graphic? So that could be a bit of fun. It gets us talking about Savini, and we've already covered Friday the 13th Part 2 way back on episode number 6. So yeah, it's fresh in our memories. Interestingly enough, the only 2 Friday the 13th movies to make any version of the Nasties list, and I would say with a degree of confidence here, by the time the Nasties list was created, Part 4 so much more violent than this. Like so much more violent.
But by the time, I'd say like probably when like part either 5 is pretty violent too, but definitely by the time Part 6 comes out, I think the BBFC was just like, you know what, the MPAA is doing a great job of chopping the fuck out of these movies. We'll just leave it to them. So yeah. And that might be part of why there's these 2, I think. Yeah,
by the time they're coming over, they're already censored. So we are getting the cut down version of it, which, like you say, from their point of view, makes their job easier. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing on this episode. As always, up front, we will just catch up with where we are. I, in the interim, went away and did the Fright Fest. It was. It was.
How was that?
Interesting. Being back in a cinema full of people for 2 days. I
bet that was weird.
Was just a little bit. I was there with Big Sexy Scott and Liam, which did make it kind of cool. It was just kind of mostly the 3 of us though. Liam's soon-to-be wife She had contracted, I think, COVID for the third time, and it had kind of morphed into pneumonia. So,
holy shit.
Yeah, so she was ill, and Scott recently had a kid, so left his wife at home to look after the baby, which I would moan about, but I did exactly the same.
Right.
No place to make comments or conversations. The movies, are kind of hodgepodge. I did see a couple of movies that I thought were fucking incredible, a couple of movies that I thought were okay, and at least 2 movies that I thought were not great to shit. So just
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, just to recap the ones that I was very high on. The one that stole the whole show for me was Freaks Out. Freaks Out is an Italian movie. It's not out and out horror per se. It's kind of fantasy fairy tale with a smidge of horror. It does hold the accolade of being the most expensive production Italian movie of all time, and it fucking looks it, man, is absolutely. I mean, it looks the way I described it was, imagine watching The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, but directed by Guillermo del Toro, and that's kind of what it's like, but also set in Nazi-occupied Italy, and it's fucking mind blowing. If I could have applauded it harder, I would have during the viewing. It kind of floored me. I thought it was incredible. Other ones to check out: Some Like It Rare. It's a kind of French horror comedy cannibal movie. It is very, very, very funny, very slapstick, very good. A movie which will probably fly under the radar for a bit before it gets a decent release is Mandrake. It's an Irish horror movie. It was really, really good. You Are Not My Mother, which is now available, which is another Irish horror movie. So that was on the good side. On the bad side, that new Christina Ricci movie, that monstrous one, which is going to be hitting the States in May. Piece of shit.
That's disappointing. I love her.
She's really good in it. She's really, really good in it, and it's got a 50s aesthetic that she's perfectly suited for, and she's good at that. But it's just a movie that I would be very surprised if within 5 minutes of watching the movie, Mark, you haven't kind of clued into what's happening, and then it's just tedious to the end. It's just like it's not very good. It actually infuriated me quite a bit. A movie which you will have to try and track down because it's one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. A movie called The Ledge. Right?
Okay.
The Ledge is directed by Howard J. Ford. Howard J. Ford directed a fucking great zombie movie about a decade ago called The Dead. Which,
oh yeah, I remember that.
Loved The Dead. He did also make the sequel, The Dead India, whatever it was, and that was shit. And turns out he's kind of, the best thing about it was he was there to do the Q&A, and I'll set up the kind of the premise here. Is basically, imagine Cliffhanger, right? But
okay.
Right, but it's a woman trying to escape douchebag Americans who are chasing her up this vertical cliff race in Italy, and they're a little bit rapey. And it has maybe some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard in a fucking movie that has been made after like 1983. It's just a bad movie, and of course it's hilariously bad. So everyone was laughing, and then the director come bouncing out. Director, by the way, clearly on cocaine. Like he was fucking high as fuck, right? And he sat down, and the very first thing he said was, it was kind of interesting reaction. I wasn't expecting as much laughing during. This was his first, this is the first time he'd been played in front of a live audience for him.
Oh boy.
And he just misread the tone completely, and he wasn't smart enough to do the Tommy Wiseau thing, which is, it was always supposed to be a comedy. No, and then he very quickly tried to be like, well, it's not my script, I didn't write it, I was a gun for hire. Yeah, the editor changed all these things, I didn't do it. Yeah, it was absolute train wreck in the best fucking possible way. So yeah, that was a ton of fun, and there were some other movies in there that were they're mostly all getting pushed. The last one, which will be making its way to Shudder this month, which was The Cellar. That's what it closed out on, and it is a painfully average horror movie that is clearly influenced by The Beyond and Hellraiser, but not as good as either one of those movies. I think a lot of people will see it, and I think if you see it and you've never seen Hellraiser or The Beyond, you will probably think it's a great movie. But if you've seen either one of those, you'll just be like,
I could have just watched those movies.
I'd much rather watch those movies. So yeah, that's been me. Freaks Out when it lands, though. Everyone has to see that movie. It is fucking insane how just original it was. It just kind of floored me. I've never seen a movie like that before, and it looks like I say, it looks like Marvel money was being spent on it as well. And I was like, on this movie, on a genre out, and this is where they funneled their money. Amazing. What about yourself, Mark? You've clearly had a very quiet month and a bit since I last spoke to you. Nothing's happened. Nothing at all.
Yeah, definitely nothing's happened. No medical procedures. No, hopefully changes in fucking employment here very, very soon, like tomorrow maybe. I've been watching quite a bit of stuff, but I've also been like plugging away on the fucking music as best I can.
Yeah.
The album is like almost done, and it's really fucking good. And I'm hopefully playing some live shows like starting next month, which is going to be interesting. So
nice.
That's going to be exciting. As far as stuff I've watched, I rewatched Army of Darkness a couple nights ago because I went back through the Bruce Campbell autobiographies on Audible. I fucking love those so much. That's comfort food stuff for me. And yeah, Army of Darkness is like a movie I will never say a single bad thing about. Obviously, I stumbled across Evil Dead Trap, which I think is on Shudder and it's on Screambox. And I've heard of it for years and years, and it's like I don't know what the fuck this movie is. I for a long time I thought that it was like an unofficial. It was like the zombie thing in Italy. Only it was like a Japanese, unofficial sequel to Evil Dead. Not really. It really doesn't have anything to do with the Evil Dead movies. There's a couple little like kind of homages to like Evil Dead 2, but there's also homages to about 1,000 other things in this movie. It's really just a huge hodgepodge of just like ideas borrowed from like tons of other movies. That's not saying that's like in a bad way. Like I actually like had a lot of fun with it. It's extremely fucking batshit. It's super gory, has tons of fucking gnarly kills in it, and has a super fucking crazy pants ending. Like I had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely worth checking out if you've never seen it. Just don't expect it to have anything to do with the Evil Dead movies. What the fuck else? A couple days ago, I watched that Tony Hawk documentary that just came out on HBO.
Oh, that's getting great reviews.
It's really fucking sad. I was not expecting it to be as like grim and dour as it is, but apparently that dude's lived kind of a weird life, and it's pretty sad. I really enjoyed it. I love anything about skateboarding and punk culture and stuff like that, like stuff that I just missed the boat on just barely. Like as it was happening. Like this was all a couple years before I was born. Let's see, what else did I watch? We had a watch party at a friend's house where we watched Alligator a little while ago.
Oh, nice.
Which is way better than the title would have me believe.
Had you never seen it before?
I had never seen it before.
Oh, dude, man, it's great.
I mean, thankfully I waited until there's a gorgeous fucking Blu-ray of that out right now. Like that Blu-ray makes that movie look like it was shot yesterday. I mean, aside from some dodgy effects, if animal violence and hearing and seeing about cute puppy dogs getting fucking killed and fed to sewer alligators bothers you, you might want to steer clear. But other than that, I had a fucking blast with it. Fucking X, dude. We gotta talk about X. I have not talked about X on any podcast. Absolutely fucking loved it. Holy shit, it was so good. That is Ty West's best movie by a country fucking mile.
I spoke about it with Bo last week. There's a thing, I don't know what it is necessarily, and I don't necessarily even think it's horror fans per se, but I think we are we were spoiled for such a long period of time with film directors that when they got to a certain age, when the masters of horror, the quote-unquote masters of horror, started kind of losing their shine, started making less movies, or not being able to finance movies, I think the horror industry then started putting undue pressure on other directors.
The new guys.
Yeah, but when you think about it, see when Wes Craven released like Last House on the Left or The Hills Have Eyes, there was no one sitting there going, he is the future of horror. You know what I mean? That's not what people were saying by then. It wasn't until he was like comfortably doing things like Nightmare on Elm Street that people were like, this Wes Craven's actually a really fucking good director. John Carpenter's exactly the same. Like, I think people forget that Halloween was his sleeper hit. Yeah. And by that point, he was already, you know, a good 4 or 5 years into his career. He'd already made he'd made the Elvis biopic. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't until he was hitting things like Escape from New York and The Fog, you know, in movie number 5, 6, that people were going, you know what, this John Carpenter, real fucking good director. So,
right.
You know, like Ty West had that flung on him on movie number 2. So he'd done The Roost, which most people have not fucking seen.
Yeah, I've never seen.
It's so much fun. It's a small, cheaply made indie horror kind of quirky throwback movie, and it's a ton of fun. And then, you know, he went away and made, you know, his movie that would put him on the map. At the end of the decade, so at the end of the 2010s, 2009, I think. And right there, that's when people were like, oh, you know what? You know, he is the new face of horror cinema. And I'm like, it's his first proper studio movie. And you're already putting that on him. And this was off the back of, you know, the industry saying that Rob Zombie was, Eli Roth was, and the list goes on and fucking on.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah, like we just, like on movie 1, we had to assign them that value. And I actually think if you look back, like Ty West to me hasn't actually, and I've not seen his Western movie, so I will stress that, but he hasn't actually made a bad movie. In fact, he's made surprisingly great movies. Like when you consider that he's one of those guys that come out of that mumblecore movement and all the rest within the genre. So I mean, like I had issues with The Sacrament when it came out, and it was mostly, in hindsight now, mostly silly. My issues with The Sacrament was that movie goes out its way to tell you that it's not based in anything that's happened and it's kind of original when it's clearly Jonestown, right?
Yeah.
But
which might have been a legal thing.
Yeah, but then,
I don't know.
But then I was thinking, I moan about the other thing. You know what I mean? I hate movies that say based on a true story, and it's clearly fucking not, and that's overused. So all I did was invert that. So why am I angry about that? I just like, you know what I mean? It's like I got over it like fairly quick. I don't think that was his best movie, but I do think it has great performances, and there is a kind of an interesting what would happen if you were at, you know, ground level, you know, with cameras and all the rest. You know, it's almost like what would have happened if we'd had a full report when everything started going south in Jonestown. So I've come to appreciate that. X to me is, I mean, he's been away for a while. He's been working on TV. He's got that A24 money, and he's went away and done. And it's so like once again the marketing behind it. I know why they did it, but it's very lazy to say it's Boogie Nights meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not really either of those. You know what I mean?
Not really.
It deals with the you know, it's porn related, right? But Boogie Nights isn't just a porn-related movie. It's like, actually, it's a character study. And then, you know, like, well, it's two creepy old people that live in a house in a field in the middle of Texas. Must be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just so lazy. But what it was fresh, really, really, really well done, surprisingly gory, surprisingly witty. Nothing that I haven't seen before, but one of those ones where you're sitting watching it in a cinema going like that. If, you know, this doesn't feel like it's the most remarkable movie made this year, but also does make me wonder how so many directors can get this formula fucking wrong. You know what I mean? This is like you know what I mean? At its basics, this is not doing anything like hugely remarkable, which means anyone should be able to do it, and that's where I get the appreciation for Ty West, because if this was so easy, then there'd be a million of these movies of this quality. And then the fact that he himself has kind of done the unthinkable, like he's got a prequel to this movie coming out, it's filmed, it's all shot, and this is, you know, the only movie that A24 have ever done which will have any form of prequel or sequel in their 10 years as a studio. So
right.
I think that's, you know, I think that is just kind of cool. I thought it was, I had an absolute blast with it from start to end. Bring on that prequel. I can't wait to watch it. I know he's talking about a trilogy in full. Give him the money. He's another guy who I think the time away has been good. I think that sort of like taking that pressure off, you know, letting the industry like hyper fucking focus on everyone else, and then come back and just remind people that actually fundamentally you're a fucking really good filmmaker, has done nothing but make me smile. So yeah, I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It pulls off the horror stuff just like absolutely flawlessly, like and effortlessly. I think the one thing that really struck me too is like it actually has like a little bit of deepness in the middle of it, where it's like, hey, you know, getting old really fucking sucks and is like really sad and really hard for people. And I was like really struck by that. I wasn't expecting that in a movie like that, and it does that really well too. I was like, oh shit, this actually like gave me something to think about. It's not just like a cheesy popcorn horror movie. Well, like it does both.
Yeah, you've got that Jill performance as well of the, what's her name? I guess it Mia Goth. Is that her name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she's playing both the, you know, the younger version and the old lady in that as well, which I think is.
Which I didn't realize until after I'd seen it. I was convinced those were two different actresses.
Yeah.
I figured the older lady was probably a younger lady done up in makeup just so they could abuse her a little bit more than like an actual old lady. But yeah, I had no idea.
Well, that's what that you know, this is the genius of the prequel. So she's going to play her in the prequel, which makes perfect fucking sense. Although the America, I believe in America you got the old after credit sequence.
We did.
Yes, in Scotland we didn't. So
that's lame.
So, like, we were getting ready to go on the Baz's with me, and I'm like, Baz, and we went to a late showing as well. I'm like, we're not going. There's an after credit scene, because I knew about the after credit, and I knew that it was a prequel to it, but I didn't know the content. I was like, we're sitting here, and it's trundling through, and I can feel the Baz starting to get very angry with me, and he's like, that McLeish, there better be a fucking after credit. I'm like, the internet is full of the after. I know there is. And then it got to the end, and then the lights come on, and like if looks could kill, I would have been dead several times over. And then I started doubting myself, and I was like, is this someone playing a practical fucking joke on me? So at like 2:30 in the morning, I had to screenshot a thing that I found online that said there should have been an after credits. So I don't know why that didn't play in Scotland, but it didn't. So
yeah, that's weird.
Motherfuckers. But it's great. It's great to see him back as well. And it's great to know that we won't have a huge amount of time to wait before we get another Ty West A24 out. And like I've said before, I will say it again, A24, I know there's a lot of people out there rolling their eyes, Duncan's such an A24 lover and all the rest. That studio has been in existence for 10 years, I believe this year. 10 years. And look at the portfolio of genre stuff they've put out.
Yeah, their output is fucking incredible. You can't fucking deny that. Yeah,
well, the thing is, like, you take it this year alone. You've got X has just come out. The Northman is about to drop.
Oh god, I can't wait.
I honestly, it's supposed to be out in the UK on Friday. But there's still no tickets available for it, like for any showings or any showings listed, which is like my testicles are tightening every time I see a picture of it. I'm like, oh, I need to go like that. So you've got that. You've got that slasher movie that they've got coming out in I think it's May. They've got like an actual full out kind of fun looking slasher movie coming out. Ari Aster's movie's also supposed to be out this year. The Disappointment Boulevard with Joaquin Phoenix. So that's also supposed to be it this year. So just when you kind of thought, you know what, we get 1 or 2 movies a year from the... No, like, they've got a ton of stuff dropping this year in the genre side of things, and it all looks fucking great. Can't wait, man. Cannot wait. Let's talk about things that are not as good as anything we've just talked about. We're going to have to get to this. I'll be honest with you, but like, had I decided to take a page of notes for this, it wouldn't have been more than a couple of lines. I think we're going to zip right through this one pretty fast. We are going to take a short break. You're going to hear the learned folk from the Video Nasties documentary talk a little bit about the adventures of Snow White, aka Grimm's Fairy Tales for adults from 1969. See what I did there? Oh, cheeky. You're also
nice.
Hear, I know. It's like hardcore fucking Mark. Don't even know why I said that. Right, but you're gonna hear them talk about it. You're gonna hear the trailer, assuming there is one, and then we'll talk about our viewing experiences with this one. I didn't partake of the Tony Casey's version of this one. This is actually available on Amazon Prime over here, but it is, I will say, just a VHS rip. Someone's put up on Amazon, and it was, I felt sleazy watching it. Like, just the rip was fucking horrible. Reminded me of those kind of hand-me-down, like multiple copied over VHS porn tapes you used to get when you were a teenager. You buy off your mate. Kind of that quality. It was amazing. Right, so we're going to be back to discuss that movie right after this.
So the next film we have is The New Adventures of Snow White, and in America it was released as Grimm's Fairy Tales for adults. It's got a lot of different actresses that people may find familiar. Eva Stayer, who was in 3 James Bond films. It also has Gabby Fuchs from Mark of the Devil, and it also has Marie Lilladale, who played Eugenie in Eugenie, Her Journeys into Perversion by Jess Franco. It is a beautifully European-looking film, and I think you can tell that it has a certain homage to surrealism, which may come from the fact that the director was Czech. Essentially, the film is the story of Cinderella and Snow White merged together, and so it's all the most perverse and most elegant examples of the events that take place in those. And I say the most perverse and elegant because there are grim examples. For example, we don't get in the Disneyfied versions of a lot of these films the gory scenes, which you do get in this film when the stepsisters, for example, cut the backs of their feet off to get their shoes on. This we do see in this film, but it's not a gory film. It's not a violent film. It's a film that revels in its absurdism. It's got amazing witches, amazing wenches. It's got a lot of animals with crowns on. And there is a lot of interaction with animals and furries and that kind of wildlife sex, if you like, with a very naive kind of innocence and strangeness. So you see women with snakes crawling all over their bodies, and all the snakes have little crowns on their heads, but it's not a phallic use of a snake. So, and the relationship between the bear and Snow White is quite formidable and quite funny. Everybody's sexuality in this film has got its own special direction, and a lot of the time everyone's scared of everyone else because they're all a bit too randy. It is certainly an eyebrow-raising film, and I think that if one takes it as it's meant to be, which is in a jubilant, naive kind of way, even the sexuality becomes quite innocent and quite playful. The one thing that I found a little bit iffy about the film, it's a West German film, and the ugly stepsisters, obviously because it's meant to be titillating, they can't be ugly, but they have been made with the assistance of very dark wigs and very dark eyebrows to be very, very southern Italian looking. And so there is certainly a sense in this film that the Aryan is the beauty, according to this kind of ideology, from the south of Europe. And I thought that gave a little tinge of iffiness about the film. The only reason I can imagine that the film was attempted to be put on the list is because it does really take, things that should be sacred and that have been Disneyfied, and it shows them for what they are, which is perverse explorations of burgeoning sexuality in iconic young figures. It doesn't actually go that far from the fairy tales themselves. So I think that its adherence to the perversion in fairy tales is possibly a reminder of the original nature of fairy tales before the Disneyfication of them. Perhaps that is what is the thing that we find quite difficult to deal with, not simply the issuing of sexuality from what is meant to be for the realm of children, but the fact that already these children's stories were quite perverse in themselves.
Once upon a time, there was a magical kingdom. A land of fertile fields and dark forests. And everyone was busy all the time. It was here that two brothers came one day with their fortune to seek adventure. And it was here that lived Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. You know all about these lovely maidens, or do you? Now it can be told. The true story, where men were men, and women were women. But they found the wicked queen, the evil stepsisters, a nice old devil, and the blue witch. Grimm's fairy tales for adults.
And welcome back, ladies and gents. So you just heard the trailer, hopefully, for the new adventures of Snow White, aka Grimm's Fairy Tales for Adults. This one is directed by Rolf Thiele, or Thiele. Who cares? I love this though. Based on the story by Rolf Thiele and Peter Larre, who has in brackets on IMDb as having the idea for the movie.
Hey, I got an idea. Yeah. Snow White is a porno.
Okay, what about Snow White but her tits are out? Option that. And it's based on Jacob Grimm's fairy tale. I'm sure he's not fucking rotisserie chickening in his grave right now, like spinning right round at the idea of that. The movie stars a lot of Germans. Norbert Gastel, Wolfgang Hess, Thomas Piper, Mugens van Gouden, Roswitha Burkle, Evelyn Dutry, Gabby Fuchs, Walter Giller, Milo. You've got a hard name to pronounce, so let's skip past that. In fact, let's just skip past all of them. Yeah.
Lots of umlautens, I bet.
Yes, tons of them. Those look like nipples from a distance, Mark.
You just got boobs on the brain after watching this.
I watched this movie like 3 weeks ago, and then I decided I wasn't going to rewatch for this recording. So, the characters from the classic Grimm's fairy tales, Mother Goose, etc., engage in activities the Grimm brothers probably wouldn't approve of. Yes, that's an accurate statement.
That's it.
Mark. Occasionally we get the privilege and pleasure of doing a Friday the 13th, right? And then other times we have to watch this middling shit. I can't stress how disappointed I was overall with this movie, because if it, I don't know, if it had like the kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of Benny Hill music, you know, in the background or something, to like if this was done as a kind of campy sex comedy, I'm down to clown on that, right? Either that, just make it a porno. You know what I mean? What actually is that? Like, it doesn't exist in any of those spheres. I can't imagine this is a titillating movie to anyone. Even at the time, you can get...
No.
You know what I mean? So
no.
I don't understand the purpose that a movie like this serves. So.
I have no fucking idea. I bet they had some investor money that they had to spend in a big hurry. They spent most of it on cocaine, and they made whatever the hell this is. The Benny Hill comparison, I think, is apt. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, they are really trying to go for like a farcical kind of goofy sex comedy thing, and it's painfully unfunny.
Yeah.
It's not really very titillating. I mean, there's lots of nudity in this, but like it's not. Nothing in this is remotely fucking sexy. In fact, a lot of it's gross and creepy, and like some of the female characters, like Snow White spend a lot of the movie like trying not to get raped by all the fucking characters in this movie.
Yep.
And it's passed off as goofy. And yeah, in 2022 eyes, it's like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah.
And yeah, I had heard of this movie. I think another title of this is The Erotic Adventures of Snow White in the States,
yes.
maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
I had heard about this. I bring this book up all the fucking time on this show, seemingly. The Golden Turkey Awards was a book that I had in the pre-internet days, which is the book of the worst movies ever made, and this definitely gets a fucking mention in there. So I had to heard of this, and yeah, everybody describes this as like a softcore porn movie, and I was like, well, it's full of nudity, but it's not really a porn movie. It is really trying to go. It's trying really hard to do the goofy sex comedy thing, and I think it fails miserably at it.
Yeah. And that's in itself is, it's not like I was going to say it's a difficult thing to do. It's not this. It's all about tone. I think it's tone more than anything. And this movie, I think, struggles with tone. Like, is kind of wanting to do the fairy tale. Like, Grimm's fairy tales are dark. Yeah, like, but by their nature, they're dark morality stories. You know, they're kind of updated parables for like a generation of non-churchgoers. So you're taking that aspect over and you're trying to like make them campy and fun, but like I say, by their nature, like those things can be seen as being like relatively like weird in an uncomfortable way, if not handled correctly. And I think there's a lack of tone management in the movie overall. You're right. I mean, it doesn't help that there's like an abundance of kind of rapiness all the way through this movie, which and it's not even just like, well, through 2022 eyes, I can see that, you know, like no, like it's evident throughout the movie, all the way through it, that things are like I read a story online that said that I think the actress that actually plays our Snow White character, like she didn't realize that she was going to be playing it mostly topless all the way through. So like that hadn't been told to her, but she still did it because she had done movies of that ilk. But I think she saw this as a vehicle for something else, if you know what I mean. Like I think she thought this was a step up, and then realized that no, actually it was probably like a step down. And that kind of
another Skin movie.
Yeah, like what she had done in the past, but I think she kind of expected the way it had been sold to her was just maybe something a bit better than what she ultimately ended up with. And like I say, I kind of feel like on some level there is a way. Not that I'm advocating people should make movies like this, but each to their own. There is a way to do this where I think it lands better. It's maybe more fondly remembered. And you know, like I think about other movies that handle things in kind of campy ways where they're clearly either softcore porn or like porn themselves, and how they are, you know, how they're perceived by audiences in a way where they generate conversation, or you know, like I remember when I was I would have been maybe 15, I think, when the first time that I saw Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens, which is like I think that's 1980. I'm probably well wrong. That's like a Russ Meyer movie,
right?
And you know, like that's one of those ones, by the way, that Roger Ebert was involved in writing. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And that one is, you know, that one has, you know, it's plenty of titillation and softcore porn and wink wink nudge nudge and all the rest. But it's handled in such a way that the comedy shines through in it. It's overtly campy, it's very comedic. And I mean, it has a story, and the story's okay. That's not why people were going to see it, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I have like very strong, vivid memories of being a 15-year-old and watching that. And like, I was kind of thinking, if I transposed myself to being 15 around, you know, like 20 years after this movie came out as a comparison, and sitting down and watching this movie, I wouldn't have any fond memories of it. like at all in a kind of campy or like that way where I'm like, oh, yeah, this bit's really really funny, or I can't believe they did this on camera. It was just at times a very tedious, remarkably unsexy, and just overall kind of uncomfortable to watch, where I just kind of like at the end of it, I wasn't sure like if I wanted to go and like watch a comedy or go and have a shower, you know. It just I didn't feel, and not in a way where it's like, oh, you know, it's like it's so disgusting, it got under my skin. Like, it's nothing like that.
No, it's unintentionally like that.
Yeah. It just wasn't like, this is the epitome of, you know. And the thing that caught me in a funny way is that this movie here, so this is tier 3 on the Video Nasties list, but I can kind of see, and I'm not advocating for censorship at all, even in the slightest form, but I could kind of see why, if you were a censor in the UK, and like, remember the Video Nasties list is kind of born out of videos being freely available to rent from, you know, shops without certification.
Right.
So I could kind of see why someone might be like that. A kid shouldn't be seeing this. You know, like,
yeah,
you know,
that's fair.
I can kind of see that, but on that level, that's about as far. Like, I can't imagine anyone was like that. If the kids see this, they'll be out a raping. You know what I mean? I can't, like, whereas, you know, like, that to me feels like a very, very silly argument. Whereas, like, I can see someone trying to make an equally silly argument, but with more kind of academic prowess, saying like that. Well, this movie shows, you know, murder and set up in a graphic fashion that kids might see, and it might trouble them afterwards. This whole thing just felt. This is the epitome of these things that are on the list. I am like that. I'd never heard of it. I know anything about it, and it's almost as if there was a reason behind that. It's a complete waste of time for me to watch. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It's just like the whole way through. I was like, if I'm supposed to be aroused, it's not doing its job. If I'm supposed to find it campy and fun, it's not doing its job. And if it's supposed to be like a dark morality tale or something, you know, like weird and, you know, trippy and surreal and all these things, it failed on that. So I'm not sure what this movie is supposed to be, but I'm fairly sure it's a failure. So that's my thoughts.
I think it's like, I was just thinking back to like the mid 90s when sex comedies were huge again. They kind of come and go, because I mean, in the 80s and stuff, we had stuff like Porky's and a bunch of horn dog, you know, boner comedies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They have to walk a really fine line, and this one does the same thing too, where it's way too stupid for adults. Like, adults are gonna hate this and not be turned on by this. And you don't want like children watching this, because obviously it's like, you know, grossly inappropriate for like a, you know, way younger viewer. So really you're aiming for that like 15 to 18, like you're too young to go in the fucking room at the video store with the beads over it that says adults only. You can't go rent like a real porno movie, so you got to settle for something like this kind of. And like that's about it. Like that's your target audience, and it's a really narrow one, especially once the BBFC got wind of it and was like, nah, yank this one. Pardon the phrase.
Let's try not yanking anything on this show.
Yeah, nobody's yanking anything to this fucking movie, I'll tell you that. And yeah, just in general, I think sex comedies are a difficult thing because as a society, I think our perceptions and the way we think about sex moves really fast. And maybe like this movie wasn't, you know, they didn't realize at the time how rapey and weird and fucked up this movie kind of is. But definitely, you know, 40, 50, however many years later, we fucking certainly do. So like when you make a movie like this, you're kind of setting yourself up for, it's going to age like fucking milk. And a lot of this, you know, a lot of the stuff from the 80s and a lot of the stuff from the 90s is the same exact way. We go back and watch something like Euro Trip now, or stuff like that, and it's just rife with sexism and homophobia and just all kinds of shit that's just aged horribly. And this movie's no exception. There is one scene that I was like really surprised by. I don't remember who the fucking character is exactly, but at some point there's a basement full of like severed body parts and dead fucking shit. Like that's like an insane scene of violence that just comes out of nowhere, and then like I don't remember if it does. And I just watched this fucking last night, and I don't remember anything much else after that. I was just like, whoa, what the hell is this doing in a boner comedy? I don't know. Like, for a second, I thought maybe this is how this landed on the list, but then I was like, this comes like 40 minutes into the movie. The censors didn't even make it like 5 minutes into this movie. They probably saw the title and were like, "Nah, fuck it, get rid of it."
I think, like, I'll be very surprised. I've not heard the intro to this, and usually when it comes to these sorts of movies, they do get an academic in. So it'll be interesting to hear if there is an academic that speaks specifically on this one. But I imagine just the name of the movie, it's like you're not that long into kind of after the credit sequence and its tits, and that was probably enough.
No.
So, but like on the same time, there's nothing in here so graphically sexual or violent to promote it to like a list of like the tier 1 or the tier 2. And
this is no Last House on the Left.
It exists in a weird bubble of. This is what I'm saying. It's like it's just a nothing movie to me. Like watching it was just a nothing movie. It didn't. I was gonna say it didn't register on me. That means my dick didn't get hard. But like it didn't do anything for me at all when I was watching it, except draw away 1.5 hours of my precious life, which
yes.
I'll never get back. Let's talk about how we would assign a grade to this one. For the listeners out there listening to the show for the first time, we don't grade them like you would usually hear other shows grade. We have a bit of fun with it. We have grading set on kind of sentencing terms. So if it's a really bad movie, a la the aforementioned Last House on the Left, then it would get some good old-fashioned hard fucking time, right? If it's a movie which is kind of edging, that's a bad word to use for this movie. If it's tiptoeing, that's better, towards being of incredibly disturbing content, then we're going to give it some community service. If it's a movie that is playing footloose and fancy-free with the content that's shown you whilst still remaining relatively wholesome, then we would give it a little bit of a slap on the wrist. And if there ain't nothing in this bitch apart from some paranoid old fuckers going, it's gonna destroy the world and dogs, then yeah, it gets a case dismissed. Mark, what are you gonna give our Grimm's Fairy Tales for Adults?
So this one's getting a special one. Basically, I'm giving this a slap on the wrist just because kids probably don't need to be watching this. And with a title like Snow White, I mean, it's got the Disney association a little bit. What I'm doing with this one, I'm not prosecuting this. I'm going to very carefully pick it up off the shelf and walk it to the fucking room with the beads on the door and put it on the shelf next to Deep Throat and Debbie Does Dallas, where nobody will ever fucking watch it because they have Deep Throat and Debbie Does Dallas and a million other porn movies right next to it.
A couple of those Emmanuel movies, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Wink.
Yep. Those two.
Yep. I think this. It's difficult. I mean, there's a lot of kind of implied rape or rape threat throughout the movie. To me, this is a very much a kind of a slap on the wrists. I don't think this is anything above that. And I don't think I could dismiss it either, just because of the sexual content and why the list was originally created. Very much like yourself, this should not just been like you could just get this from your local store. This should have been you need to be a pervert. Like you walk in here pantless wearing an overjacket, and that should be it. Right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to talk about arguably one of the most important slasher movies ever fucking made, but not in the way that most podcasts do it, because they do a lot more with that than we do, and we're only spending a small amount of time contextualizing through the eye of the nasties. You're going to hear learning people speak about Friday the 13th. You're then going to hear the trailer, which I know does exist for this movie, counts up the murders. And then when we return, myself and Mark are discussing Friday the 13th from 1980 right after this.
The 18th highest grossing movie of 1980 was Long Night at Camp Blood, or to give it its retitled name, Friday the 13th. Here it is on Warner Home Video in its complete uncut version. This version wasn't seen in America until years later. Of course, there was a lot of differences in the original script, and it was Josh Voorhees for a start, even though Mrs. Voorhees, played by Betsy Palmer, was still the killer. Her role was offered to Estelle Parsons originally, but Estelle turned it down. And Sally Field was originally going to play the part of Alice too, but it did feature Kevin Bacon in his debut feature. Written by Victor Miller, who turned Kojak scripts into paperback novels, we all know where the real inspiration for Friday the 13th came from. It was Mario Bava's Bay of Blood. This was the film that played in a double bill to Sean Cunningham's Last House on the Left. Cunningham obviously took note of the body count script and decided to do one himself. He's admitted this freely, so we all know that that's where it comes from. Betsy Palmer didn't actually do any of the murders in the movie. That was Tasos Stavrakis, Tom Savini's assistant. In fact, you can see his hairy arms in a lot of the scenes when they're actually doing the throat slitting, so it can't have been a woman at all. This was quite a controversial movie at the time because Paramount, who released it in America, it was an unusual film for them to do. They were looking at exploitation movies making an absolute fortune like Halloween, and they thought, we want a piece of this pie. So they picked up this very, very low budget movie and promoted it to death. It was a major studio doing this, and they made $40 million on the first release of this film. A lot of people actually wrote to Charles Bloodhorn, the owner of Paramount Pictures, and said, what are you doing? You can't release this. But of course, money talks in Hollywood, as it always does, which is why it went on to become possibly the most successful franchise of all time. The film was re-released in a cut version, but also you've got to remember that another inspiration for the film came from Brian De Palma's Carrie. That so influenced the ending where Jason Voorhees leaps out of the water onto the boat. Didn't matter. It became one of the most keynote images of the series and led to Jason Voorhees becoming the lead character in every successive sequel.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4. 5. 6.
'Must be my imagination.
7.
Can I help you? Hello?
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
welcome back, ladies and gents. So you've just heard the trailer for Friday the 13th from 1980. This is directed by Sean S. Cunningham, no stranger to the old tier 1 list, because he was behind the production of Last House on the Left, which is one of the really fucking bad ones. So he's my favourite story about his involvement with Last House on the Left is that when they were trying to get it rated by the MPAA in the States, they couldn't get a version of it which was like an X certificate or anything over there. They just wouldn't touch it. So Cunningham ran down the hall to another movie that had been signed off with an X rating, and then just cut that out, brought it in and said it had been given it, and then
he gave it his own rating.
Pretty much, yeah, he just forged it, which is pretty much all you need to know about Sean S. Cunningham. It's based on the characters created by Victor Miller. Now, if you are anyone of any interest in horror at all, you know that saga, I think, has finally come to an end. Last month.
I think so, yeah. Victor Miller, I think, now owns the rights to the idea and maybe the name Friday the 13th, but it's a big, convoluted, complicated fucking thing.
Yeah, and as a result, a lot of people out there have been like, oh, they need to just settle it and make another Friday the 13th movie. And I'm like, listen, let's just let it just settle for a while. I mean, you can come back with it whenever. It's a timeless story. And sometimes rushing things means evil dies tonight, Mark. Evil dies tonight.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
Yep, right. So, Ron Curtis is also uncredited as a writer for this one. The movie stars Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Janine Taylor, Robbie Morgan, Kevin motherfucking Bacon, Harry Crosby, Mark Nelson, Peter Brewer, Rex Everhart, Ron Carroll, Walt Gorney, who plays Crazy Ralph, and a bunch of other fresh-faced, big-titty camp counselors, male and female. They've all got tits in this movie. So much tits. The synopsis for this one is a group of camp counselors trying to reopen a summer camp called Crystal Lake, which is a grim past, are stalked by a mysterious killer. Now, like I say, we're going to work on the premise here that you have seen Friday the 13th before, and or listened to someone speak about Friday the 13th before. I've spoken about this movie maybe about in terms of reviewing and format podcasts out there, either podcasts under the stairs or in guest appearances, about 10 times. So I have no real enthusiasm to review it that way. So instead, what I thought might be fun, Mark, is actually just to talk about Friday the 13th in terms of it getting on this list. So Halloween wasn't on the video nasty list, right? So it's one of these ones where it's clearly just a little bit classy, Mark. And this is not classy by their standards. If anything, what this is someone trying to, because it's when you watch it, it's difficult to, and this is where people take a shot in your Duncan catchphrase bingo. I mean, if Halloween is a kind of cautionary murder mystery whodunit sort of thing, right, with a kind of supernatural bent, Friday the 13th is basically like an American Giallo. That's the difference. It's when people are always out there saying, well, without Halloween, you wouldn't have Friday the 13th. That is true, but they're not alike. I mean, in any way, shape, or form.
You wouldn't have Friday the 13th without Bay of Blood.
100%, which now you're talking my language. Now you're speaking a little bit Mario Bava. You're speaking almost a decade before.
This is old hat to Europeans at this point, but I think this was pretty fresh for American audiences.
Yeah, so these are directors who have seen Twitch of the Death Nerve, as it was known in the States. Which, by the way, Bay of Blood, it was on the nasty list. So, but this is directors seeing that and getting inspired to do things out and out, taking deaths from like that movie and kind of inputting it into this movie. But you're getting a kind of update of that, but very much like how Giallos are, to an extent, like directors ebbing Hitchcock. So Hitchcock's doing the American way of the kind of murder mystery thriller, and then the Italians are putting their spin on it, making it a bit gnarlier, making it much more, like visually stunning, like more elaborate scores, more elaborate deaths, and starting to add a bit of horror to it. This is America copying that, so it's the snake eating its own tail. But by the time we get to the kind of 80s, and they're now copying the Italians already, kind of gnarlier version, it's now a gnarlier version, and that's what you get here. So the kills are brutal, by the standards of what you were getting at the time. We are playing fully into those kind of these kind of new ideas of the kind of archetypes of the stereotype characters you've got, the bimbo, the jock, the stoner. You're getting all these things are starting to find a place in here, and essentially what you're getting in Friday the 13th is a template, a very repeatable template of this is what we're going to have ruling the roost for the next 4 years in horror cinema. Just get used to it. like you may as well strap yourself in, because the amount of clones that are going to come out in a rapid succession after the Friday the 13th, including Friday the 13th movies, is scary, and a lot of it comes down to setting a real idea, and that's why there's so many slashers. There's so many slashers on the Video Nasty list, because the time the list was made is the heyday of the slasher. But also you have, like, if a giallo is black glove killer, someone seeing something, some visitor to Italy seeing something that they can't quite remember, and thus being thrust into the case to solve a murder, and J&B in the background, and a ritzy score, and people with money and affluence and all the rest. If that's the kind of tropes of the giallo, the tropes of the slasher are, POV for the killer, gruesome as fuck practical effect deaths that you will get gnarlier and gnarlier, a bunch of innocent teens, generally a bunch of innocent teens, and if they fuck, they're dead. And
they do drugs, they're dead.
They do drugs, they're dead. And you slap on a title to do with some sort of ominous sort of day, or some sort of celebrity day, and that's you. You can guess what, Mark? You can make your own slasher. And this is, like, in a lot of respects, like, the thing I always remember is not that I forget that the first one is, like, a different killer. That is clearly obvious. But I forget that the first one goes as vicious as it actually does with the deaths. Like, the Kevin Bacon death is still, to me, I can't imagine being in the cinema and we're going to go and see this new Paramount horror movie. Oh, I'm going to take my girlfriend with me, and sitting there and seeing an arrowhead poke through someone's neck, and that effect holds the fuck up, man.
Oh yeah. The best thing this movie did for itself was to get Tom Savini, like, and he's like, new enough on the scene that, like, people wouldn't have known, like, what to expect, even if Tom Savini's name was on the fucking poster or whatever. But he was far enough along in his talent of pulling this stuff off that, like, it still looks incredible to this day.
Yeah.
Did you rewatch this for this recording, or have you seen it enough times that you're like?
Of course I watched it.
So I watched on that big box set that Scream Factory put out, like, last year, the year before, or whatever. The version of Part 1 comes with both the unrated and the rated versions of this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I'd seen both, but I didn't remember, like, there being a whole huge lot of difference. So I watched the unrated version, and I didn't really, there wasn't anything really that stood out to me that, like, I don't remember this is the R-rated version, so I looked it up, and they're about 10 seconds difference between the two. Like, all of the kills are still intact. The only difference is they all play, like, a couple seconds longer, basically. Like, it holds on the shot for longer. And I don't know which is more effective. Like, they're both, like, the effects are so good in this that, like, you don't need to like linger on them in like a Fulci kind of way.
Yeah.
But like sometimes it almost, I think it makes it more brutal, like when it like, you know, it does something really crazy violent and then like immediately gets away from it and goes to something else. It kind of lets your brain fill in the gaps, and like you don't have enough time to really like focus on it, and it kind of just bitch slaps you in the audience basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had intended to watch both versions, but then I looked it up and I was like, oh, they're only like 10-second amount of difference, so that's kind of pointless. But yeah, man, that is like really the big difference between this and Halloween. I mean, they're both like they're both similar in tone. They're both, again, kind of aiming for that like 15 to 18-year-old, like taking your girlfriend to the movies kind of crowd, but we're both humongous fucking successes.
Oh god, yeah, this movie cost about $500,000 to make and would go on to make like, and it's, you know, it's run in cinemas, 40 million, which like, that's fucking nuts. You know what I mean? That is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, to put that in perspective, nowadays you'd be talking about, you know, with interest and all the rest, this movie would have cracked comfortably over 100 million, which is just insane.
On a teeny tiny little budget. That's I think the other reason that there's 50 billion Halloween clones and Friday the 13th clones is because these movies were dirt cheap to make, and probably like real short shooting schedule. Like just a breeze to get through, so people could crank these things out fucking left and right. And, you know, most of them, I think a lot of them turned a profit, even like stuff that went direct to video or whatever. Like VHS was fucking great for these kind of movies because like you could make this cheap, maybe piece of shit movie, but like as long as you got a cool cover that's like kind of riffing on stuff that like people are already familiar with, like Friday the 13th and Halloween and stuff, you got it in the bag. People are gonna fucking rent it like left and right probably. And it's that 15 to 18-year-old kind of demographic that just ate this shit up in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned before this is one of these ones where Savini, still a relatively like new name. Interestingly enough, at the same year making this, he's making Maniac, which just like that dude. It's just fucking like that back to back, and two completely different feeling movies as well, with bitchin' special effects, but was hired because the producers of the movie, Sean S. Cunningham, etc., like adored Dawn of the Dead. And we're like, we need to get like look at the effect, and no wonder that's another movie that where you watch it and you're just kind of, you know, blown away by what they were achieving on how little they had. And he's brought over here, and you can see that his technique is a bit more refined. You can see that he's starting to grow in confidence as a special effects coordinator. And then you watch it and it's just, it's like all the kills are brilliant, and like I absolutely love them. And then you get the quirky characters. We're starting to set out the archetypes of what you expect from these movies. And then this is another one which, you know, comes kind of post Carrie, so we need that stinger at the end. And the stinger at the end, which I still to this day, no one was thinking, you know, we're gonna ride a like 10 movies
based on that kid at the end.
No one was thinking that, but you see money talks, and when the money's there, the studio's going to go right. Like I know, like even to the point where you're like, you've said this one's the final one, the final chapter. We could do another. Money talks in these things, and that's certainly what you get here. In fact, you've got John Carpenter. What was it, last week? When he was asked, did he think that Halloween Ends would be the end, the last movie that, you know, bore the name of Halloween? And John Carpenter said, if it made money, there'll be another. And he's saying what we all know, but for whatever reason, we naively take the names of these movies, sometimes super serious. So yeah, this is great. I also think as well, it kind of set the American, and it's a kind of, once again, it's a riff on what they did in Italy, and the giallos, the Italian giallo movies. What you tended to have is a bigger named actor who would be the one who would have to hunt down the killer. So it would always be like it would always be someone non-Italian who was trying, like David Emmings, for example, and like a Deep Red or whatnot. You would always have that one actor who you'd be like, oh, this is for the foreign market and all the rest. And like slashers got really, really, really good at casting really young, fresh-faced actors and actresses trying to get their first break, and there is a abnormal amount of what we would then go on to class as A-class Hollywood actors that were in some of these movies that they either like have since come to appreciate and embrace, or have tried to bury like very, 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 very quickly. And Bacon's great, and they're like, you watch Kevin Bacon in this, there's no way anyone's watching him in this and not thinking he's going to be a fucking huge star. He's great.
No, yeah, it was sometimes that happened accidentally a lot, but like, yeah, and this one, it like you're. I don't know if I'd really call her A-list, but like your more established actor is Betsy Palmer, who doesn't come in.
You can get away with that as well. They did the opposite thing in Hollywood. What they did was they managed to start getting, and to be honest, this was riding off the back of Halloween, when you can land Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, who's made 100 fucking movies prior to this already. This was kind of slumming it for him, like I think a little bit at the time.
Yeah, I think it's that thing where they cover it really, really well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where like Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who was this big star, has to go and work in Italy for a couple of, like a year or two, and make 1 million movies, become very successful over there, and then guess what? All of a sudden he's stuck in Hollywood, raises again and then comes back. There was that period where there's just a lot of actors and actresses, like classically trained actors and actresses, who were, like you said, like gems and darlings of the silver screen in the 50s or 60s. Maybe work starting to dry up. Oh, guess what? There's a ton of these slasher movies where we don't have to do too much, we don't have to say too much, and we join in. We don't actually really know what the movie's about. But we'll be in, like, I think, like Betsy Palmer, like, very famously said that she didn't understand even, like, why there was why there was so many installments of this movie after her death. So like, well, I'm the killer, I'm dead. Why are they still making these movies? Like, my dead son's killing them? Well, that doesn't make any sense. He wears a sack on his head and now a hockey mask? That doesn't make sense. Like, they didn't have to know, but you could get them relatively reasonably. And it added clout. It's a big name on your marquee. And then the fact that they make Betsy Palmer the killer in this as well. One is completely implausible because she throws a man through a window.
Yeah.
Fucking Hulk. But the rest, just... It adds that, because it's the last thing you would expect as the audience member, is the kind of frail old woman who's walking about the park. It's just, I think it is such, surprisingly at times, it's such a trashy movie, but it's such a clever movie as well, and it's such an influential movie. Without this movie on this list here, even as a tier 3 title, there is about 30% of the actual tier 1 and tier 2 list that don't exist, like, at all, in any way, shape or form, that are just essentially clones of this movie, but they ramp up the gore because that's what you do when you're not the original movie. You have to keep making it more gory, more violent, and all the rest, and push those boundaries. So yeah, it was just cool coming back to watch this, man. I would love to say it's been years since I watched this. That's a lie. I think it's
usually about once a year I watch the whole series.
Yeah, I think I'd seen this within 6 months of watching this for this viewing through. But I know, like, there's no stress involved in shoving on Friday the 13th. It's like totally, you put on, have a few beers, eat some popcorn. It's a good time.
Yeah, they're all short too. They're all like within around 90 minutes or so.
Yeah, well, here you go. This movie is about the same length as the other movie that we watched for this week. And this one fucking flew in, and the other one felt like it went on forever.
Yep, exactly.
There you go. Mark Ball, this could be interesting. What grade do you give Friday the 13th?
So this one's tricky because you have to put, like you said, you have to put yourself in the position of somebody that watched this for the first time in 1980 when nothing. This was, to European standards, this was probably kind of old hat and they'd seen stuff, but the average American audience, this was pretty fucking out there and pretty groundbreaking for its time. So I'm sure it freaked audiences out. But also, I don't know, you look kind of a little further back on the Video Nasty list, and you have to think about the filmmaker's intentions, kind of. I don't think with this one they really set out to make the most brutal, fucked up movie that they possibly could, because Cunningham had already worked on Last House on the Left. That still fucking stands up as one of the gnarliest movies I think ever fucking made. I think their intent for this was to make a fun, spooky, fairly scary movie for the 15 to 18 demographic, and I don't think they expected it to have as big of an effect as it did, and to freak people out as much as which I mean, probably seeing Tom Savini's effects on set, and seeing the guy work. I mean, he's a total ham. He's a big teddy bear. He's a total clown. I bet this movie was a lot of fun making, but then you get it up on the screen and I don't think audiences knew what fucking hit them when this thing actually came out. So I mean, I at least got to give this a slap on the wrist, because it's it comes out swinging. Within the first 5 minutes, there's a gnarly dude gets stabbed in the fucking belly and his guts are fucking coming out, and it doesn't go more than 10 or 15 minutes at the most without another super gnarly kill, and still has some of the most notorious kills, and maybe not notorious, but some of the most iconic, I would say. The arrow through the throat is that's what everybody fucking talks about, and the decapitation at the end, Betsy Palmer too, is pretty iconic, I'd say. So I mean, I'm gonna meet him halfway in the middle. By today's standards, this thing is pretty tame, but by 1980 standards, I bet this was pretty shocking. So I'm gonna give us a slap on the wrist.
I'm with you on that one. I think contextually, the movies that are above this, i.e. on the tier 1 and tier 2, for the most part in the slasher realm, are very violent, super violent versions of this. So to me, as an originator of that, it kind of is pushing, it's pushing some buttons, but it's not nearly as graphic as a lot of them. And also there is there's a good story here. I like that story. I think sometimes slashers like Giallos, the longer they went on, the shittier the story. Really any excuse to get anything to happen to you. I like the mystery that's involved here, but the deaths are great and they hold up really, really, really well. So it's a slap on the wrists from me as well. Ladies and gents, we're going to take our final break. You're going to hear promos for shows that we love, and when we return, we are closing it out and letting you know where we're going on the next episode right after this.
This is a test of the emergency podcasting system. Listen to the Psychosemantic Podcast. Politics, movies, and political movies. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, legionpodcasts.com. The Psychosemantic Podcast.
And you have been listening to Doing the Nasty Podcast. This has been Season 2, Episode number 27, with a review of the new adventures of Snow White and Friday the 13th. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another episode coming real soon. And in this episode, it will be a slasher, which came a year later, which I'm going to say right now, hugely influenced by Friday the 13th. A little slasher called Final Exam, directed by Jimmy Houston. It's been a wee while since I watched this. I remember it being just very much over the top and kind of nonsense. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. Have you seen it before, Mark?
I'm trying to remember if I have. I kind of give this one and What's the other school one that we watched?
Graduation Day.
Graduation Day and Happy Birthday to Me, and all these movies kind of blend together in my head. So I can't remember I'm pretty sure I've seen this, but I don't remember much about it. So this will be a pretty fresh watch.
Yep. Well, we'll be doubling it up with arguably one of the most important horror movies ever fucking made. We'll be doing Night of the Living Dead from 1968. A little George A. Romero action for you. Very much looking forward to doing this. The fact that this was even on any fucking list is criminal.
It's gotta be one of the oldest movies on the fucking any of the nasty lists, I would think.
Yeah, well, it's a year, like, well, to put things once again into context, this was made came out the year before our Snow White erotic thing.
Oh man.
So there you go. But yeah, so that's our next episode. It's Final Exam from 1981 and Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Mark, where can people interact with you, check out your stuff, and do all that good shit?
Usually the best place to find me is around the Twitter. That's at the Fancy Mark. Like I said, I've got some music coming out here very soon. A full length album that will probably be on Bandcamp and the usual digital places. I haven't even entertained the idea of doing like a physical release of it or anything, but. Yeah, if you I haven't got any of that stuff set up yet. I've been focusing on trying to get this goddamn album done like in a timely fashion. I've already kind of blown off one of my deadlines for it, so I'm hoping by my birthday, which is May 5th, the album will be done and out and ready to be consumed by the masses. It's real weird. I'd gone I think about 6 years without releasing any fucking music at all, and I kind of almost abandoned it until my friend Brandon, who plays in a lot of local bands and works at our local record store, was like, hey, I've got a solo album coming out that's kind of similar to stuff you've written in the past. Do you want to come play some live shows with me like this summer? Just, you know, little tiny venues. He's played in bands for fucking years and years, so he knows all kinds of people that like run little tiny baby venues around. And I was like, I've dreamt of this moment for like my entire life, but never felt confident enough in the stuff that I was writing. Or like, I'm not really a musician. If anything, I'm more of a composer, just because I like don't really play any instruments except for keyboards terribly well, but I can write music like on a computer really well, I'd say. So I don't really know how the live show is going to work exactly. I'm mostly trying to focus on like getting the album done. And then, you know, I'll figure out like which elements of that will be live and which will be like basically pre-recorded. I really don't want to do like the DJ thing where it looks like I'm standing up there checking my fucking email on a laptop. I want, you know, there to be some live element to it, but yeah, that's probably going to be the last part of the process. I'll probably just like, you know, remove a few of the tracks and try and recreate them live on my micro recorder or, you know, something along those lines kind of deal. But anyway, that should be it should be done by May 5th. I'm pushing really hard. I'm working at least like every other day on the album to get it done. It's got like I moved away from kind of like the EDM sounding drums, and I intentionally programmed the drums to sound like punk and metal drums. And there's lots of screeching guitar kind of sounds, and you know, some wacky shit going on. It's got some breaks in it that are like, I would call deeply psychedelic, just because I'm really into that shit. I don't know if anybody else is listening to this right now is going to be into a lot of this, but that's not why you do it for yourself. You write music that you really like. And so far, I really fucking like the stuff I've written, so I'm really excited to get it out there and hear what other people think about it. But yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, I'll be posting about it, you know, when it's ready to go there for sure. So that's the best way to find me on the online.
Nice, ladies and gents. Go for support our friend Mark. We are going to be back. I'm going to say we're going to try and get this episode out before the end of the month, a little Night of the Living Dead and Final Exam. But if it won't be, it'll be kind of very shortly followed into the next month, and we will eventually catch up with the schedule. But until then, please take care of yourselves out there, and we will speak to you next time.
Goodbye.
Nasty. Nasty.
They were called Nasties, and they were nasty.
Some of the things that we've seen are so horrific.
These films not only affect young people, but I believe they affect adults as well.
An extravaganza of gory violence capable of depraving and corrupting those who watched it.
I have never seen a video nasty. I wouldn't. I actually don't need to see what I know is in that film.